Hello and welcome back to a follow-up video on deregistering. My name is Paul. I'm delighted to be joined here again by Murlock. So Murlock, thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
And I'm also delighted to be joined here by Jim. So welcome Jim, and I'm looking forward to your comments.
Paul. Thank you.
Okay Murlock, just before we start, the interview was done original interview last October 2022. Just can you make a comment, did you get good reaction to their views on it, or what's your...
Yeah, I got immediate reaction actually, and I was happy about that. I got immediate reaction. I was going to be interviewed by people with a different opinion, and that group was followed up, and days later I just got the message back that there was no interest in the matter. So yeah, it sort of fell on his face after that, and I still just pushed ahead, you know, making my daily good faith offers, I call them, or you can look on them as a challenge or whatever you want, but I just continued, you know, making offers, like for somebody to try and just have a conversation on this man to man, just organic conversation, and see what's going on. And no, yeah. Still nothing. It's disappointing now.
Yeah. So now we'll just go to a few questions or comments that were put up on the social media when the video was posted, and we'll just go through them and just generally ask your opinion. One of the comments is, if natural men and women of ERA decide to deregister from the register, not voting, the comment is, will that not leave the gate open to the hardcore, we'll call them the establishment party candidates, parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Provisional Sinn Féin, etc., that they will get, almost by default, by deregistering, you're handing them the victory, handing them the power, and the government to get elected?
Those people they're also fooled. You know, those people, they're ordinary people, and if they were presented with the facts of the matter in a lay-like fashion that they could comprehend, they would deregister too.
Yeah, but just go back to the point, is that a danger? A comment that if we, people, as a sovereign, natural men and women aware, if we deregister, are you given the, almost like a match, you're conceding the match? Is that a danger?
No, for me, no. It's just absolutely essential. If you get the 50% plus, like, I mean, that collapses the state anyway, and that's the goal. I've always said it's mass deregistration. I don't just push for deregistration as such. It's mass deregistration. We have to get the critical, you know, number. You have to get the majority to reverse the plebiscite. That's what you have to do. There is no other way.
Yeah. Okay, Jim, would you have any comments on that, or the danger of that possibility?
Well, you see, what I would say with Murlock there is definitely everything has to be mass, because even in the whole activism movement for the last 3 years, it's the same couple of hundred people are doing everything. And we have a lot of people in the background pushing the buttons or pressing the buttons. But mass is the thing, mass movement of people. You know, nobody's going to save your skin. Nobody's going to rescue you. You rescue you at the end of the day when push comes to shove. So it has to be mass. And just sorry, now I'm only kind of making notes as you speak. You hear a lot of people saying day to day about change of government. It's change of system. The system has to be dismantled, and in as peaceful a way as possible, obviously, as long as that's an option. But as time goes by, you just wonder. Like, I mean to say, I'm an awful man for analogies, but years ago, if you heard of a scrap yard with a scrap car, you saw all these heaps of cars up on top of one another, and you went along and took your wing off or your door off or whatever part you wanted. But the modern day scrap yard, the car goes in and it's completely dismantled, put on the computer system and shelved, and that's the kind of dismantling we need. Just taken apart till there's nothing sitting there in front of you, and the good parts you can reuse again. Looking at our current political setup, I don't see a whole lot of good parts, but we'll stay ever the optimist.
Yeah.
And the bad parts just get rid of.
Yeah.
Like, there would be no point in rehashing an old system and you know, just getting back more of the same under a different name. You know.
Okay, Jim.
And these people have had decades to prove their point. They haven't had a couple of minutes or a couple of weeks or a couple of years. They've actually at this stage had, you know, decades to. That's.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim, for that. Now we'll move on maybe more up to some of the logistics. If people start and natural men and women start deregistering, surely will the state, first of all, notice this? is there maybe a danger, or will the state try and counteract this by replacing the natural men and women who deregister by people who come into our country, whether you call them refugees or asylum seekers or economic migrants, that they will replace them one for one? And we do know there is an agenda, and politicians are on the record, they want to increase the population of Europe by at least 1 million people. Is that a danger?
And it was a danger 3 years ago and 4 years ago, and all the times that people have been saying that to me as well. And it's more of a danger now than it's ever been before. So, yeah, you want to crack on, wouldn't be really and truly. You know, it's an old excuse is the point I'm making to you. It's an old reason that you're giving me for, you know, something to be done. Because, yeah, it's not that the government will replace with refugees. The refugees will be the ones who will sign themselves into the system. That's how it works. You know, that's where the power comes from the signature. So it is they who will sign themselves into that system. You know, they'll be coerced into it, and you know, by the state or by the agents of state. But yeah, as I say, it's an old excuse. I've heard it years and years ago. Yeah. So
yeah, I suppose the state has the power at the moment. We call it the state. If they see this deregistering happening, automatically we all know power likes to keep their power. They will surely, or is there a strong probability they will use every tactic to keep their power? And could this be one of them?
I don't know, because that's global anyway, isn't it? I mean, it's not just what's happening in Ireland, you know. The whole, every nation is being seeded at the moment. So, I'm getting stuck here now because...
Let's give your answer, and that's fair enough, and I hope people will take that in general honesty, will say.
Yeah.
Now we now move on more to the logistics again. If people deregister, how can we get information, and proper information, on how many are deregistering? Because you won't go from 1% to 51% in one jump. Logic will tell you you'll go from 1 maybe to 5% to 10% up along. How can we get this information from the county councils? I understand that the county councils were formed before the freedom of information. They're not subject to freedom of information. How can we get proper information and data on how many people are registering so we can actually see it? Because if you went to 15 or 20%, it would gain its own momentum. So just general, can you address that, and how do we get this information and find out?
I'm repeating myself again. I'm tired of repeating myself. I think we have to have our own record. That's what I said. I don't think that you can rely upon. I don't think you can rely upon the council. I don't know what you think yourself. I think we have to do this ourselves. The same as we have to abolish Irish water ourselves. Look, they're not going to do it. We have to do it ourselves. So it's the same. It's the same thing. It's going to be done by the people at the end of the day. So I just say, yeah, we'll create our own record and put it into the public that this is the volume. You know, so we can. Yeah. Don't
Jim,
rely upon the council.
yeah, Jim, how would you think on that?
Well, any transition period will be messy, you know, and also like it's you'd be taking people at face value to give you accurate information who up to this haven't been giving you accurate information, who use the media as a weapon of propaganda. Practically every article you read about anything these days is weaponized, you know, against people who are activists or people who are fighting a certain cause or wanting whatever they see fit, you know. So you couldn't be, you know, you probably would have to set up your own independent parallel way of collating all this information, because you definitely couldn't, you know, every little, I don't want to go into specific, I can if you want, but every little statistic you see about vaccinations and all these different things, they're all stacked the word in a certain way. You know, statistics are statistics, facts are facts, but you can dolly them up all different ways to suit your agenda. And that's what's being done every day of the week. And that's why we have all these people falling for these guys' traps for a long, long time now, you know. So.
Yeah.
Well, there is another reason, reason why that these young, generally men, I suppose, are being brought into, not only Ireland, they're being brought into every country, but you're just talking about dollying figures there, and what it does when you bring in these people, you know, of working age, you get a very healthy GDP figure from doing that, you know, which is it's an easy way, like, to massage your figures again, you know, so...
Now, just to clarify again to our listeners, if 51% deregister, just for the clarify, what will happen?
The plebiscite is reversed. The plebiscite that was used to enact the Constitution
Of 1937.
of 1937, yes.
Now, the follow-up to that is, where is that written, or where is that stated, or where are you getting that information from, that if the 51% deregister, that the Constitution 1937 has to be left aside and gone back? So where are you getting that from, or what information from?
That's just a show of hands from the people. That's what a plebiscite is. It's just a majority decision. It's a democracy in essence. It's been done throughout the centuries. People would have had plebiscites. It's just the majority deciding that this is what we want to do. It's the majority deciding that we want to rescind a contract.
And does it have to be
That's democracy.
Yeah. But maybe again, put in the aims of the state, they will say, where is this written down? Where is this stated? Where is it? Is it just word of mouth? Do we need something stronger than that? That we'll have to rescind the 1937 Constitution.
So how was the 1937 Constitution enacted, if that's the case? So it was enacted by the majority. The majority decided we wanted to do this, and that's what they did. Now, the reason it wasn't enacted by plebiscite is because it couldn't be it wasn't enacted by referendum is because it couldn't be enacted by referendum. Couldn't be enacted by referendum because it's a slavery by consent contract. That's why.
Okay, yeah, grand. Now, again, thanks for that, Morlock. Next one again, if 51% deregister, as we said, the state has the power at the moment. How can we make the state do this? If the state decides they're not going to do it, we don't know who controls the state. We talk about the globalist organisations, the World Economic Forum, the various Bilderberg groups and all that. If the state are not in fully control, are not fully, they're only been doing what they're told, how can we make the state move away from the 1937 Constitution if 51% deregister?
Yeah, sure. Look at it as the man says. You know, you have to make whatever steps are available to you, whatever moves are available to you, that are peaceful and that are lawful, and that's what this is. I don't see why it would be. I don't see why it wouldn't be done just as a matter of moral, you know, to say that, look at, this contract is unworkable for the people, you've robbed our water, you've destroyed our culture, whatever your problem is, but no, it's it's
Okay.
completely unmoral.
Yeah. Jim, just to you again, there's talks about the banks and the corporations, that they really run the show.
Well,
that they run Ireland.
the old saying is money talks, isn't it? And they seem to be pulling the strings. You're talking about the World Economic Forum. That's non-elected. Up to 3 years ago, I'd never heard of Klaus Schwab. Who is he? He's not Noel Davern, or he's not Matty McGrath, or he's not any of these local TDs we have, or he's not a county councillor. He's a German man that has absolutely nothing to do with this country. Yet his aspirations and his plans and his ideals seem to be very, very on track at the moment for this country. And the sooner Tom, Dick and Harry start learning this and realising that, the better, because if they don't very fast, it's going to be to their detriment. You've got the World Economic Forum, you've got the World Health Organisation, and then you've got our own people. Is it 160 TDs or whatever it is up there? Everything that's going on in the last few years is anti-person, anti-human, and it's anti the refugees and the people coming in as well, because they're only being used. They're coming in from whatever type scenario they're coming from, but eventually the system will turn on them. They're just being used right now because it suits the narrative to use them. But pretty soon they'll soon see what these guys. It's communism on a plate. It's it's ready. It's ready to be served. The chef has said your meal is ready, and it's just the plate is about to be handed to you. And we're not exaggerating. It's everywhere. And this year alone, we're only in the 12th of January, with sudden deaths, people getting sick, all kinds of different things. You know, most people are starting to smell a rat right now, but it's to get them to go to the next level. and the next level is doing something about it. Like, we can sit here till doomsday. I'm talking stuff here now that I've spoken to people 100 times in the last few years. Similar conversations. If I recorded earlier conversations, I could nearly leave the tape off. You know, and I'm not being demean in saying that, but that is
the fact.
We're all, repetition.
We're all just fed up saying the same thing
and
over
like
and over.
they say, what's the definition of madness? It's to do the same thing repeatedly and expect a different result. And so we are guilty of driving ourselves mad. So the job of work is to convince our loved ones, our friends, our neighbours, everybody that you walk past on the street needs to be informed. But you see, there's not much of an appetite for it because of the weaponisation of the media, that we're this, we're that, we're the other. The ones who are anti-people and anti-state at the moment are sitting up in a house in Kildare Street.
Yeah.
And that's as plain as the nose on my face.
Yeah. Okay, Jim. Now, Morlock, have you ever come across in another country the deregistering has taken place or been attempted? If so, has it been successful?
No, I haven't ever come across it, but I see that globally the problems of the world are the same. I put it into one word. I see it's just legal. Legal is the problem. Legal is the world that we live in. There are no morals in legal, and it's not just in Ireland. It's in our neighbouring countries as well, and it's all around the world. They seem to have legal systems. So all this Klaus Schwab agenda and everything that's going on it's legal. So one word is our problem, and that is legal. And legal is that's why I really promote the mass deregistration, because you're deregistering from a legal contract. Everything that's going on now, the agenda is legal. That's horrible to think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know you have put out maybe a challenge, is what maybe the right word. You're inviting people to debate you. Have you invited or challenged what we would call mainstream political parties or mainstream media to this debate, or would you?
I was actually given a couple of names to mention to a member of Sinn Féin, and I didn't contact him, of course. You contact the office and they'll take the message for you, but I said I was asked to mention these names, and I was asked to speak to that man, and I haven't heard anything back from him either, so yeah, it just seems to be the same across the board.
In your opinion, why is there so much resistance to your offer, your invitation to different groups, whether the mainstream media, mainstream political parties, or the different groups that are coming together in the last number of years in ERA? In your opinion, why is there so much resistance not debating you?
Must be me, is it?
I don't know. For me personally, I can't understand it. But have you any thoughts on why? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are they afraid?
I see the state. I see the state. Right. It's everyone's enemy, as they say, and it's protected by layers. And the first layer is the Gardaí, and then you're protected by just layer after layer of people protecting this horrible thing. And I myself think, unless maybe some of them know and maybe some of them don't, but there seems to be a layer of people that are just keeping the people involved in the system. They're just keeping them, and it's like another layer of protection of the state, you know, just these people that are telling the people to come and protest and stuff, you know, whereas really, like, you know, I mean, there's no point in protesting as citizens. You have to just deregister first. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Will somebody come and argue that with me, please?
How do we get to the ordinary, for the wanted men and women on the street who are watching the television, watching the mainstream media, listen to the politicians? How can we convince them, or how can you try and convince them that deregister is the way to go? A lot of people know there's serious things wrong in our country of ERA. How can we get to the normal man on the street who's going about his business, the woman on the street, to try and get him to this is a probable and possible way to improve things?
That's why I'm inviting the people who think other to have the conversation man to man and have it recorded, so that the people can analyse the situation, so they can assess the body language of the two people having the conversation and try and make an informed decision as to what's going on. But I'm not getting the opportunity. To have the argument. So that's hardly fair, is it?
Yeah. Going back to we call them the ordinary man and woman on the street, that's general term. some will be maybe afraid if they deregister, it will affect if they're on social welfare or on their benefits or whatever connections with that. That would be maybe a legitimate concern. Well, we call the ordinary man and woman on the street with fear. What would your thoughts on that?
It's nothing to do with it. It's best example you give is, you know, if you left school and you just say you forgot to register to vote, you'd still go and get married, you'd still get a car, you'd still get a license, you'd still get a job, you know, you'd still get your children's allowance, you'd still get, you know, it has nothing to do with anything. It's a second register, it's two separate lists. You have the birth register and then you have the electoral register. They're two separate lists, but the electoral register is where the de facto state gets its power, and that's where we have to shut the power off. Yeah. And then we can have all the discussions as to, you know, what we'll do next and where we'll go.
Again, Jim, just to finish up now, have you any final thoughts?
And I've only met Murlock for the first time today. I probably only ever met the man a half an hour long, but like, surely to God, what he's saying is worth listening to, and surely to God, it's worth, you know, discussing. Surely to God, it's worth, you know, bringing on and advancing. And you don't, like, I'll probably say, I'm damn sure I'll say something here today that not everybody will like, but that's no problem. I don't, you know, we're not all going to be in 100% agreement. But what he's obviously saying is to open up the conversation and to have the debate. A lot of people, you see, another aspect of it to remember is a lot of people in the activism scene or awake or whatever word you want to use, because no matter what word you use, somebody can say, oh, that's not what we are. But anybody that's on the scene at the moment, or sorry, not anybody, but some of the people on the scene at the moment do have political aspirations under the current system. So the last thing they'll want to do is dismantle that very system. So you're going to meet a stone wall there. Like, you know, I'm stating the obvious. There are some political parties, kind of newish ones, you know, that are there that want to, you know, go into the system as it is. So they are obviously not up for deregister. Yeah. And you know, that'd be like shooting yourself in the foot.
No.
And you want just to finish up, would you make your final comments or what comment you want to make?
Yeah, I'd just like to answer that. You see, that's the problem. All the different group leaders seem to be on an automatic defensive mode. Mm-hmm. You know, when I approached them with regard to this matter. Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to derail their ideas or their directions. Not at all. That's what they need to understand. I'm not here like to break up your thing or to change your mind.
Well, but maybe I should say it a different way. They kind of want to go into the system as is, whereas then they see if you're taking that system away, how are they going to get started, for want of a better word. Maybe that's more what I'm kind of...
Yeah, and just to finish up, Murlock...
Before you finish up, lads, just a quick question, Murlock, it's a question that's being asked by a hell of a lot of people, and you notice yourself on Facebook, a lot of them are asking, when you deregister, can you re-register?
Yeah, of course you can.
And how do you do it?
I don't know. Somebody I've seen.
Anyone here can explain that?
I've seen somebody though. They had live footage of somebody telephoning, you know, the county council and asking that question that you're after asking, and the lady that they were talking to was just saying, "Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, you can." That was you, the centre. Well, there you go. Yeah. So that man had the proof, like, of, you know, how quickly it can be deregistered and registered.
So that's
not an issue.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to thank Murlock for inviting us here today. Yeah.
Thanks again.
I really appreciate your comments. Really appreciate, Jim, your comments.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I hope the listeners and the viewers enjoy this and take benefit from it.
Hello, Councillor speaking.
Hey, Catherine.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm just wondering how long it would take to re-register to vote.
Alright, let's have a look here. You were registered to vote with us, were you?
I was registered, I deregistered there after the last election, and I'm just wondering how long would it take if I re-registered? What's the process?
Okay, I can send you out a form and we can get that done pretty quickly. Now, there's a bit of a backlog on the portal, the Check the Register portal, but still it'll be 2 weeks and we'll be back on the register.
2 weeks. That's brilliant, Catherine. That's great. Thanks a million for your help.
Is that okay? And you looked at the Check the Register, have you?
Which?
Check the Register online. You can do that online.
I can do it online. Excellent. That's great, Catherine. Thanks a million for your help.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Bye.